My mic muted. I don't know what happened with my mic. Hopefully that is not a recurring issue. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. It is week 10. I'm going to be breaking down Raiders-Broncos for Thursday Night Football, DraftKings Showdown. Maybe take a look at FanDuel. I'll be going position by position as usual, starting with quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. At the end, I will be running the sims again, trying to get to the lineups that I want on here, and some big news. And you can see I'm editing the banner on the bottom of the page right now because if you have not already tried out Run the Sims, new offer at Run the Sims, not just 10% off your first payment using promo code Neil. If you have not tried Run the Sims yet, you can get 50% off your first payment on any NFL product at Run the Sims using promo code Neil. So if you haven't checked it out yet, highly recommend checking out Run the Sims. Again, I will be showing how I'm using them at the end of the show. Of course, if you are not on a show, you can start now. You have more time than I have, although I would wait a little while because I don't think Michael Bandy has been added to the projections yet. So once Michael Bandy is added to the list, not that he's all that impactful, but if you wanted to factor that in, you might want to wait another 10-20 minutes to get started with your Sims. But check it out. Highly recommend checking out Run the Sims. Again, promo code Neil will get you 50% off your first payment. If you haven't done so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, trying to get to 6,000 by the end of the NFL season. Could really use your support. We're going to get into it. So let's start at the quarterback position. Bo Nix, one of the best floor plays on the slate. Just he's probably going to score some touchdowns. He's probably going to run a lot to like about Bo Nix. You can see here he's projected for 61% flex ownership, 24% captain ownership. You can see my exposures are the columns on the far right. I guess since new people might be signing up, I need to kind of explain here the shady flex exposure, shady captain exposure. That's because I'm using the Shady Advice portfolio optimizer tool. That is an add-on. It's not included with every Run the Sims package, but if you're paying for the highest level, you'll get that Shady portfolio optimizer, and these far right columns are going to represent my current exposures. If you don't have that, it'll be a different column. I guess it would be the filtered, or it'll be one of these other columns. But currently I am getting slightly over the field on Bo Nix in the flex. He's projected for 61%. I'm getting 63%. I'm actually under the field at captain, which I'm okay with that. I also, if I had gotten to, right where the field is, I would also be fine with that. But 24% captain projected ownership is quite a bit. I'm getting to 13%. I'm totally fine with that being a bit under the field. I usually don't want to have a huge stance on quarterbacks at captain. I usually like to spread out my exposures to other positions. So if he's going to be pretty chalky, yeah, I think I like what the Sims are doing here. I'm not going to do anything to change that to get to more of Bo Nix. On the other side, we have Geno Smith projected for 37% flex ownership, 6% captain ownership. I'm above the field in both of those. I'm getting to 52% in the flex, 9% at captain for Geno Smith. And I like that. I think Geno Smith at 9,000 looks like a pretty good value. Now, the Raiders are not projected to score a lot of points. Their implied team total is like 17, so significantly lower than the Broncos. But we've seen that, with Brock Bowers back, this offense looks a little bit more potent. The Broncos are missing Patrick Surtain tonight, which might actually be pretty impactful. You look at the past couple games, they've been giving up a lot of points without Patrick Surtain. He got hurt in the first half of the game two weeks ago. They've given up significant points too. I mean, the Cowboys put up points on everybody, but then they gave up 32 points to the Giants last week. So maybe the defense is, did take a big hit without Patrick Surtain. Maybe the Raiders are a little bit more likely to score. I'm happy to be getting above the field here on Geno Smith. As far as the matchups and the PROE, the Broncos, so Bo Nix, Broncos rank 8th in terms of pass rate over expectation. Raiders defense has allowed the 16th fewest schedule adjusted fantasy points per game over the last 5 weeks. So totally neutral matchup for Bo Nix. And they do pass a bit over expectation. Geno Smith and the Raiders rank 18th in terms of PROE on the season. I did not filter that out. Maybe I could for just the 2 games that Brock Purdy has been fully healthy. Actually, I'll do that right now. I read a tweet about their pass rate over expectation actually much higher in the weeks that Brock Purdy has been healthy, but I want to, I can just filter that out so we can see if that is accurate. Yeah, they lead the league in terms of pass rate over expectation in weeks 1 and 9. Now, obviously, Brock Bowers played in weeks 2 through, like, 5 as well, or maybe 2 through 4, and the PROA was lower, but he was, like, clearly banged up, wearing a knee brace. In the 2 games that Brock Bowers has been healthy, they've actually been throwing it quite a bit. Um, Not the best matchup with Denver, but again, Patrick Surtain is out, so maybe a matchup that, doesn't look great on paper becomes a little bit better without Patrick Surtain. It's the 4th worst matchup over the past 5 weeks, but again, the past couple weeks, they have been giving up more points, so maybe it's a little bit better than it appears on paper for Geno Smith. Um, all right. Uh, Both quarterbacks. So Geno Smith for sure. I want to stack him up regardless of where I have him in my lineup. If I have him in the captain spot, I want to have him stacked up with multiple pass catchers. Just not much of a rushing quarterback. Has averaged like 10 rushing yards per game. Bo Nix a little bit more of a gray area. I think you could play Bo Nix unstacked. He does run a little bit. He has 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, so it's viable. But generally, I'm going to want Bo Nix to be stacked up. Also, I think if I were using an optimizer, I would require the stack with Bo Nix, and in the captain spot, I might require a double stack, but that would be kind of loose. It would include like at least RJ Harvey and Tyler Bidet, maybe even J.K. Dobbins, like kind of make it a looser stack if I have him at captain and I require 2. Otherwise, you could maybe just require 1. Also, he again has rushed 3 times for touchdown, so it's possible he gets there with just 1 stacking partner in the captain spot. But most of the time, would prefer to have multiple. Absolutely, Ryan. No issue with that at all. Bowers and Myers and Michael Mayer together. I think that's it on quarterbacks. We can move along quickly to running backs. Quarterback, as usual, not that much to dissect with quarterbacks. They're generally going to be fairly strong plays. I'm going to have them in a majority of my lineups. At running back, starting with the Broncos side, so they're showing up at the top here. J.K. Dobbins still looking like a fairly strong play, is not showing up as the smash play he was when I ran the Sims earlier. That's kind of interesting that I'm getting to lesser of him now. 8,600 projected for 37% flex ownership, 13% captain ownership. In this run, I'm getting to 31% flex, 14% captain exposure. I believe that's because the ownership came up. I think the captain ownership was previously in the single digits, so then I was getting well over the field. But I'm still like right with the field, a little over the field at captain, even at 13% projected ownership. And a little bit under the field in the flex. Nice price tag on J.K. Dobbins. He like the role is good, not great, I would say, for J.K. Dobbins. Here we can pull up the bell cow report. He is getting, I think, averages 15 carries per game on the season. So from that perspective, pretty good role. We'll take 15 carries per game, and has spiked to as much as like 20 in a game. However, he only has 13 targets in 9 games. So just a target and a half, 15 carries per game. 19.5% route participation, actually came down last week in terms of the route participation. So not super involved in the passing game. I do think, it's a pretty good matchup with the Raiders. Again, if we look at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed over the past 5 weeks, it is the 7th best matchup for running backs against the Raiders. And the price is nice. So not much involvement in the passing game, but very alive to get to the 100-yard bonus. And a touchdown, obviously, would help quite a bit. So nice matchup. Would like it better if he, got like at least like 3 or 4 targets per game. Just like one to 2 targets is not going to do much for J.K. Dobbins. But again, he has had those weeks where he spikes to 20 carries in a game that is at least within his range of outcomes. If they're running well on the Raiders, maybe gets a little bit more work than usual. So J.K. Dobbins, I think a totally fine play at 8,600. At least he's a nice discount off of like the top end options. But no longer looking like a smash play when now he's getting 13% captain ownership. Beyond J.K. Dobbins on the Broncos, RJ Harvey, I think, actually becomes more interesting with Marvin Mims out. We saw it last week that RJ Harvey was just more involved in the passing game. So, and he's kind of a gadgety guy. Like he's been involved in the passing game anyway. He's been really efficient with his touches. But last week actually saw 5 targets and up to 41% route participation. So that kind of route participation and that number of targets, and it sort of makes sense that with Marvin Mims out, they're using RJ Harvey in some of the gadgety ways that they do use Marvin Mims. They move him around the field. Only got 2 carries in that game. It's like they're actually using RJ Harvey more like a receiver than a running back. But I think he's a fairly strong play in a nice matchup. The price tag seems a little bit high for his role. But again, 5 targets is like, your typical wide receiver. Some teams that's like a wide receiver 2, other teams more like a wide receiver 3, a good wide receiver 3, I guess. So it's like it's a reasonable role for a like wide receiver 2, getting 5 targets and a couple carries. But then on top of that, it's a nice matchup, and he's been really good with his touches, which for one thing means he's just more likely to put up big scores if he continues with this workload. But it also might mean that he is earning more and more workload because he just continues to week after week unlimited touches pop. So would it surprise us if suddenly he's running 55% of the routes and sees 8 targets in a game here? I mean, a little bit. I mean, it would be top end range of outcomes if we see that, but he may have earned a bigger role, and he's already been pretty good with the role he has. So 5,600, like I see it and I get a little bit of fear. Like that seems like too high of a price tag, but ultimately 5,600 might just be like a fair price for RJ Harvey. And you can see here, I'm right with the projected ownership, 30% projected flex ownership, 2% captain ownership. Using those, I got to 31% in the flex and 2 in the captain spot. So right with the field on RJ Harvey at his projected ownership. With that said, I don't feel that great. Like if I lost some of that, if he really comes in this high ownership, I wouldn't mind being a bit under the weight. It does seem like he could fail in a big way at this price tag. So I'd be more inclined, I think, to go underweight than overweight if this is the actual ownership on RJ Harvey. And Tyler Bidet, I think, is somebody that I'm not getting to now. Wasn't getting to him this morning. I think I'm going to force my way to a bit more Tyler Bidet in my lineups. He's only 1,400. He's being projected for 9% flex ownership. So if he actually gets 9%, that is a bit much, but decent workload. 12 routes run last week, 31% route participation, 3 targets in that game. So just compared to like a backup tight end with, 3 targets in a game, that'd be better than you expect for a tight end. And he's a running back, so he's more likely to be able to catch them. So you convert those 3 targets into 3 catches for 20 yards. 5 fantasy points at 1,400 without any touchdown or anything, like looks pretty good. So I think Tyler Bidet is, I like him better than the 0.5% I'm getting to now. It's not like a slam dunk because again, we have a lot of pretty strong value on this slate. So he doesn't stand out as like, oh, I'm going to just like, this is the guy, because there's so many pretty good value plays that I want to mix him in. I want to have 5% or so, I think, of Tyler Bidet. I think he's that strong of a play, not like I want to have 30% of this guy because he is running laps on the field. There are other value plays that I'm going to like better than Tyler Bidet. And Adam Prentice, 200. I'm currently not getting to any. I'm fine with it. I think he had 1 carry last week. He's live to score a touchdown or something, but just the classic fullback, like most likely not going to do anything. And even if he does score a touchdown at 200, there are enough value plays that I like that I don't think I'm going to get to Adam Prentice, or at least not going to force it into my lineups. On the Raiders side, Ashton Genty is 10,200. Oh, and I should look at the schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs. Again, really strong matchup for Denver. Not as good of a matchup for the Raiders. It is the 8th worst matchup, looks like, in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs over the past 5 weeks. So not an especially good matchup for Ashton Genty. But Pete Carroll keeps saying, like, we want to get him 20 carries a game is where they're at with Ashton Genty. They want to give him a big workload. So the $10,200 price tag is a bit much, but I still want to have a fair amount. He's currently projected for 41% flex ownership, 13% captain ownership. I'm well under the field, 31% flex, just 1.5% captain ownership. I would like to have more captain ownership than this. I think 31% flex I'm fine with, but I think if I kept that and got up to like 6-7% at captain, I'd be more comfortable, because Ashton Genty, just one of those players that I think could break the slate. Like, he could have multiple touchdowns and nobody's going to bat an eye if Ashton Genty does have a really strong game. So yeah, I think that he's a pretty good play. Harvey did have 2 rushing touchdowns against the blowout in Dallas 2 weeks ago, and a receiving touchdown. And I don't think it was all blowout either. Like he scored one of the rushing touchdowns pretty early in the game. Really, really nice run in that one. He's been legit really good with his touches. I think he's just not trusted to be like a full-time running back is kind of my like they trust him more as a receiver than like a break the tackles kind of. It's more like elude tackles, get him in space, but I don't think they trust him just like to break tackles at the line of scrimmage is my impression of how they feel about RJ Harvey. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't understand the whole 6-7 thing at all. I don't know what it means. I don't know why people do it. I'm hoping that it's done now, and I don't have to learn why that's a thing with the youth. Beyond so Ashton Genty, I want to have a little bit more than I'm having right now. I could still be under the field, and I'd be okay with that. Dylan Lobby is inactive. Raheem Mostert then looks better with Dylan Lobby. Right? Hang on. Let me double check that. I believe that I when I looked it up before the stream, Dylan Lobby was inactive, and now I just want to make sure that I'm not giving out false information. But I'm pretty sure Dylan Lobby. Let's see. 1 second. No, Zamir White. Sorry. No, Dylan Lobby is active. Take it back. Don't remember that. Forget I said anything. I was thinking of Zamir White. Zamir White is inactive, not Dylan Lobby. Okay, that's good to know. That's actually pretty important. Dylan Lobby is 400, projected for 2.6% flex ownership. I'm getting to 2.3%. Seems fine. Raheem Mostert, 2,400, projected for 4% flex ownership. I'm getting to 1%. Again, if we look at, well, I'll just look at last week. Last week, 0 offensive snaps for Dylan Lobby, 6 for Raheem Mostert. Neither had a carry. Mostert had 1 target on 7% route participation. Just Genty has the main role here for the Raiders. I believe in week 7 they actually had a blowout where Dylan Lobby got a little bit of work, if I'm recalling correctly. Yeah, in week 7. So he at least did get blowout run when that factors in, and he had 2 carries, 1 target on 10% routes run in week 7. So there is that. He could be involved in a blowout, and he's only 400. So he seems fine. And then Mostert, like, just not really involved. And I don't think he's likely to be. Maybe there'll be games and we can pull up the full season for Mostert, but I just don't think he has a good enough role that we really want to play Mostert. 16 carries in 5 games. So I guess just over 3 carries per game, 3 targets on 22% route participation. I think he's more of a contingent upside play in case of an injury to Ashton Genty. That's when you would suddenly like Mostert, which doesn't necessarily mean you can't play them together, because it could happen that Genty has 100 and a touchdown in the first 2.5 quarters, and then Mostert takes over after an injury or something like that. Like that's the way that I think they work together, or just like they are able to absolutely run all over the Broncos, which I don't think is extremely likely. Anyway, Mostert I think is a fine play. I'm getting to 1%, so I'm under the field currently. It's a bit risky because, again, he has awesome contingent upside, but I don't think he has a ton of standalone value. So I think that's a risk that I'm willing to take. Often, I have said it. I do like backup running backs, I think, typically better than the Sims do, because the Sims don't account for that contingent upside. Like, they don't play for that game scenario where the starter just gets hurt in the first half. So sometimes I will make that adjustment and push up the backup running backs. And I could here. I'm not sure that I will in this case, just because there are so many other values that are fairly strong. So I think I'm more inclined to do stuff like that when it's like, if that happens, they're clearly going to beat out all the other best value, and those lineups are just going to shoot to the top. Whereas here, it's like, unless it's in the first quarter, maybe second quarter, if something were to happen to like Genty in the second half, if he got hurt and Mostert came in, he would still need to beat out a lot of other value around his price tag, and it's not that clear that he would even project better in a half than he probably wouldn't. He probably would, but anyway, it's a little bit thinner than it would be on some other slates, so I'm a little bit less inclined to do it here. But I think he's a fine play, somebody to mix into a 150 set. I think that's it for the running backs. I'm going to move on to wide receivers. Check in on chat. Reminder again, if you missed it at the beginning, Promo code Neil now gets you 50% off your first payment on any NFL product at Run the Sims. Highly recommend checking it out if you have not already done so. This is brand new as of today, up from 10% off to 50% off. So is it actually true? So I don't know. I don't know exactly how the Sims work. I believe that it is at the very least very difficult to account for that type of injury. I've heard, I've never done Sims myself. I am just listening to people who do Sims and from what they have said, and it seems to reflect in the Sims. I think it's very difficult to account for things like early injuries in the Sims. So yeah, I think that they do not account for that kind of injury. Yeah. Okay. Wide receivers. Let me. I'm just checking in on chat real quick. Oh, did DraftKings tournaments fill already? Shoot. Daniel says Sims can account for injury. Yeah, I'm sure that they can. Yeah, I don't believe these Sims do. I don't believe most Sims do from what I've seen. But I'm sure it's possible to do. Okay. Moving on to wide receivers. Yeah, Chase, I will talk about Thornton and all the wide receivers now. But I'll start at the top and we'll get to the more tertiary receivers. So starting with the Denver side, Troy Franklin and Courtland Sutton are kind of a league of their own as far as the Denver receivers go. Sutton is 9,600. Franklin is 7,600. Franklin projected for 35% flex. Sutton 34. Franklin 5% captain. Sutton 7%. So $2,000 in difference, getting about the same ownership. I kind of thought I was going to get to a lot more of Franklin than Sutton, just because if you look at their roles, so let me pull it up. On the season, and actually, I'm actually going to look at more recent sample also. So on the season, Franklin actually has one more target than Courtland Sutton on the season. He's run fewer routes, 73.9% to 80.5%, but more targets. Now, if you look at expected fantasy points, which is going to take into account things like where were you targeted? Were you targeted in the red zone? Sutton does lead Franklin by 15 expected fantasy points over Troy Franklin. Sorry, no. Franklin leads in terms of expected fantasy points. Sorry, 131 to 127. Sutton leads in terms of actual fantasy points, 120 to 105. So it's kind of interesting that Franklin has more expected fantasy points. Sutton is actually cashed in more frequently on those expected fantasy points and has more fantasy points on the season. But ultimately, like the roles don't look significantly different. And I want to look at just more recently. So let's see. 9, 8, 7, 6. This 4-game sample. Franklin actually leading in targets 31 to 24 over the past 4 games, just under 8 targets per game for Franklin, to 6 targets per game for Sutton. Sutton actually running more routes, 79.2% to 74% for Franklin. I believe the last two, it's actually flipped. So it's actually Franklin running more routes. Yeah, the last 2 games, Franklin up to 82.8% and 89.7% route participation. Sutton down a bit to 79.3 and then 84.6. So Franklin actually leads him in terms of routes in both those games. He's being targeted more. So at least recently, it kind of appears that Franklin is the wide receiver 1, but I don't really think we need to make that distinction. Like they seem like they are about the same play. They're going to flip back and forth in terms of who gets the big games, and Franklin is 7,600, so $2,000 discount there. Looks like a really strong play. Surprisingly, I'm actually getting to way more of Sutton as a captain play, even at higher ownership, which doesn't again surprises me a little bit. Actually, I kind of want to look at what the inputs are here that I'm getting this. Franklin higher market share. Interesting. So Franklin a higher receiving market share than Sutton. Sutton a slightly higher touchdown market share than Franklin. Franklin also getting a small bit of the rushing market share to none for Sutton. So it's not something that I really understand how it comes out this way. I would have expected to get to more of Franklin than Sutton. Just if you consider them about the same play, he's $2,000 cheaper, getting lesser ownership, but kind of a mystery that I'm getting to so much Sutton at captain here at 7% ownership. I might want to flip that intuitively. It's one of the rare instances. Like I feel like usually I intuitively understand why the Sims are giving me something, but this one surprises me a little bit how that breaks down. Either way, I think they're both pretty strong plays here against the Raiders. It is I think, fine matchup. Let me see. Yeah, it looks like it is a slightly above matchup for receivers against the Raiders. It's in particularly a strong matchup for receivers. Maybe this is why receivers lining up out left. Yeah, I think this might be why. Yeah. Cortland Sutton lining up more out left. So if you look at the schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, particularly strong matchup. Now I don't know how often this means he lines up out left. I don't have the exact data on like where they line up and how often. I think they move around the field typically. So maybe he's primarily like slightly more often lines up out left, but it does look like, at least from a schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed perspective, the receiver who lines up out left will typically benefit from the matchup more than the receiver who lines up out right. And in this case, that would be Cortland Sutton mostly. And then we have Pat Bryant, Trent Sherfield, and Michael Bandy is actually up from the practice squad. They signed Michael Bandy today. He was not in the Sims when I ran earlier. I don't think he's going to be a huge factor, but the fact that they called him up, he's the wide receiver 5 here, maybe could be a factor. Pat Bryant, and Marvin Mims, for anybody who missed it. Marvin Mims is out this week. He was out last week. Also, we can see what the Broncos did last week. Michael Bandy was up, actually ran 15.4% of routes, which is, not nothing. Pat Bryant ran 56.4%. That was his highest route participation of the season. And then Trent Sherfield did not run a route, and he was active. So week to week things change quite a bit. We could see Sherfield run a bit this week, but at least last week it was Pat Bryant, the clear wide receiver 3 with Mims out, followed by Bandy, followed by Sherfield. Currently, I am getting to a bit of Pat Bryant. He's 3,200 projected for 3% ownership here. I think this is lower than most places have, and maybe I should double check that. Using that number, I got to 16% Pat Bryant. Trent Sherfield, 800, not projected for any ownership. I still didn't get to any Trent Sherfield. Again, didn't run any routes last week. And Michael Bandy, currently don't have him in here. I am going to have to rerun the Sims after he's added to the player pool, but I think he's I can't remember the exact price tag on Bandy. I'm actually going to refresh this now, see if it's updated. Let's see. Okay, Bandy, yeah, he is the min price, 200. They've got him for just 2.4% receiving market share, 2.6% touchdown market share. We'll see if I get to any when I rerun the Sims. I would guess, maybe I get to a tiny bit. He's projected for 1% ownership at the min price. He's kind of a good version of the backup tight end play, where just good version because he's 200, not because he's more likely to hit. Like, he's pretty likely to be a 0, but again, he's just 200. So one catch could pay it off for Michael Bandy. Let's see. Let me just look at week 9. Was he targeted at all? He was targeted on one of his 6 routes. He was targeted for 5 air yards. So yeah, at 200 seems fine. Somebody we could mix into our player pool. All right. So getting back to receivers. So again, Franklin, Sutton, I think are the clear top receivers here. I think Pat Bryant most likely to benefit from a routes perspective from Marvin Mims being out. And then we did see Michael Bandy run 15% of routes last week. He's playable. Sherfield, I think in a 150 set, totally fine. I don't know that I get there because, again, there's so many strong value options that I don't think you necessarily need to. On the other side, we have the Raiders receivers in a sort of tough matchup. Let's see. It is the 5th worst matchup for receivers in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to the perspective. So tough matchup for the Raiders in terms of how they're used. So I guess we can look at the route share report as maybe the easiest way to look at the Raiders. Again, they traded Jacoby Myers away. So that opens up last week 95.3% route participation for Jacoby Myers. Should open up quite a bit on the Raiders, but I'm not convinced that it's all going to go to receivers. We'll talk about tight ends as well. But Trey Tucker ran 100% of routes last week. He is the clear top receiver, not counting tight ends, obviously, on the Raiders. Strong role this year, all year basically for Trey Tucker. He's being targeted 5-ish times per game. Let's see. Yeah, 43 targets in 8 games, so just under 5.5 targets per game, 90.8% route participation. The ADOT actually surprisingly kind of low on Trey Tucker, just 8.9. Not kind of how you think of him, not at least myself. I think of him as being like a big splash play guy, so I would have guessed that his ADOT was further down the field, but he can still, like they still use him on some of those deep patterns where he can hit for some big plays. And again, reminder, Patrick Surtain is out tonight. So while it isn't a great matchup, it is also not, it's a much better matchup than it appears on paper with Patrick Surtain out. Oh, you guys somebody's trolling me apparently. I don't know who it is. Anyway, I missed whatever that was. Appreciate you guys backing me up. Anyway, yeah, I think Trey Tucker, strong play. He is going to get some ownership, projected for 21% flex ownership, 2% captain ownership at 7,000. I got 25% flex, 2% captain, a little bit over the field on Trey Tucker. Seems fine to me. The ownership seems fairly reasonable there. Happy to be, whatever Trey Tucker I get, I'm happy with it. He can obviously put up a big score in any given game. He does not have a ton of great games this year. He has one 40-pointer and then mostly duds with, I think, another good game or two mixed in there. But at 7,000, he's fairly expensive. Again, I'm slightly over the field in flex, slightly under the field at captain. I think I would prefer to have that flipped, get to 3-4% at captain, maybe under the field in the flex, but I'm generally fine with the amount of Trey Tucker I'm getting. And then it's kind of a mess behind Trey Tucker. You've got 2 rookies in Jack Besh and Dante Thornton. And then you have the veteran Tyler Lockett coming over from Tennessee, rejoining his old coach in Pete Carroll. So let's see. All right. I'm going to break down. Hang on one second. Going to find the coach speak on Tyler Lockett in particular. I think is pretty good, or sort of open to interpretation. I'm interpreting it as being positive for Tyler Lockett. We'll see if you guys agree with me. So on, where is it? Pete Carroll on October 29th. So after they signed Tyler Lockett, on what the expectations are for Tyler Lockett, Pete Carroll said, "I'm going to need more days as far as how much he can help immediately, but he's a tremendous football player. He's got great savvy, playmaking ability, a real natural sense of how to play the game. He and Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers share a lot of characteristics and how they play the game and how they make things happen and make it look effortless at times. I'm thrilled to have him. I want to see how fast we can move this thing along and see if he can contribute." I think that's pretty bullish. Honestly, we want to see how fast we can move this thing around, move this thing along, talking about him in the same breath as like Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers in terms of savvy. Now, do I think that he's actually anywhere near the caliber of player? No, I do not think so. But I do think the fact that Pete Carroll thinks so means that at least in the short term, maybe we see some success from Tyler Lockett, or at least some opportunities for Tyler Lockett here. Like, I would not be shocked if we see an increase in terms of route participation. Last week, and this is the only game he's played on the Raiders so far, just 27.9% route participation, not really strong. Let's see, and what was the actual usage in week 9? One target on 27.9% route participation. Again, though, that was his first game with the Raiders. Also has familiarity with with Geno Smith. I'm fairly sure. Yeah, must have overlapped in Seattle there as well. So knows the coach, knows the quarterback. I think might see increased opportunities with Jacoby Myers gone. So I think Tyler Lockett, pretty strong play here at 3,005% ownership. I think he's actually my favorite after Trey Tucker of the wide receivers on the Raiders. I think I'm going to force my way onto more of Tyler Lockett, just believing that the coach speak maybe suggests more usage. I'm not a super big believer in the actual talent of Tyler Lockett, but I think he should have opportunities here. All right. Oh, is it this Jeff Jones guy? All right. We don't have anybody in here who can ban a guy. I'll just ban a guy. Okay. Um, so I think Tyler Lockett, a pretty strong player. Then you have Dante Thornton and Jack Besh, the rookies. Now, Dante Thornton was inactive last week after running 70% of routes in week 7. Jack Besh had run 80% and 60% of routes in week 6 and 7, and then 0% in week 9. So I don't think Pete Carroll has a ton of confidence in the rookies, which is part of why I am more interested in Tyler Lockett. However, I have more confidence in Jack Besh than I do in Dante Thornton, and it all comes down to the coach speak again. I mean, and the usage, like the fact that Dante Thornton was inactive last week. But the coach speak from yesterday from Pete Carroll said Dante Thornton will be active this week. On what Carroll wants to see from Thornton, he said, just keep growing. He's growing every day. He's always played hard. This is a great chance for him to answer. It's a great chance for Tyler Lockett to answer too and help us out. I did not like not having him last week. That in reference to Dante Thornton, I think. But then he also said Jack Besh is going to get more turns. He's been working really hard. His role is becoming clear. So you'll see that as we get moving forward. He said on the Chip Kelly on the 4th said Jack Besh has done a really nice job. Both he and Dante Thornton are coming along. We'll continue to see how they develop. In general, like, yeah, they're giving them the rookie coach speak. They're going to be more involved. On the 2nd, Pete Carroll on Dante Thornton being inactive said, I wanted to see what Tyler Lockett would do. I wanted to get him on the field and see what would happen. It's his spot because Thornton doesn't make enough of a contribution. He had to go down on this one. This is 1 week. We'll see what happens next week. So now it's kind of a mess. It's the first game that we have all 3 of them active. I think most likely, just based on the confidence he seems to have in Tyler Lockett, I think Tyler Lockett is maybe the most likely to surprise us with his route participation and maybe get to a bit more than expected. Besh, I think, is also not unlikely to see like 50% route participation. I think it could just be a kind of a gross committee with those 3. But Besh is the one getting so much ownership. I'm not sure that he's actually going to get to 30%. At this 30% ownership, I'm getting to 1%. I think I'm going to bring the ownership down a bit and maybe I'll get to more. But ultimately, I think Tyler Lockett is, if these ownerships are correct, Lockett would probably be my favorite just because I think he's the most likely to see a handful of targets on significant route participation. Or I think he's like as likely as Besh is at much lower ownership. And then Thornton, I think, is unlikely to be super involved, but he is a big splash play guy. Like it's kind of binary. He's either going to make a big play or he's not. But he's 1,200. I think he's fine also. So generally, looking at these ownerships, I'm fine with what I'm getting to of Thornton. I would like to have more than I'm getting to right now of both Besh and Lockett. Because Besh, again, I think this is overestimating his projected ownership here at 30%. Actually, let me pull up some other. I want to compare to some other places. Like that seems way high to me, but maybe I'm wrong. So let me compare to other projected ownership sources. Yeah, other places have Jack Besh in the single digits. 1 second here. And I think that'll make a huge difference. Like if I just bring him down to even like 18%, I would guess I would get to some Jack Besh. So just 1 second. right, so pulling up rotor grinders here. Flex ownership. That's at 18% there. So maybe that's I'll try that. I think that seems more likely. Maybe he gets steamed because he is so cheap and there's been some positive coach speak, but 30% would surprise me a bit. So I'm going to bring that up a little bit. Try to get to a bit more of Besh and Lockett and Thornton. I think in single digits seems fine. He's just most of the time I think he's not going to do anything, but he again is I think capable of just one splash play where he makes it pays off that salary. All right. All right. Oh man, I am getting who are these people? I don't know where these people come from. Anyway, uh, let's go. Oh yeah, it probably is the same person. All right, moving on to tight ends. Right, nobody else. Yeah, there's nobody else to talk about. Uh, Starting with the Raiders side, I love the tight ends on the Raiders. Clearly, we've got Brock Bowers. Is I think everybody is going to love Brock Bowers. This is not a hot take. Awesome usage for Bowers. 36% projected flex ownership, 19% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 40% in the flex, 13% at captain. So overweight at flex, a bit underweight in the captain spot for Bowers. The price is really not too high for Bowers. Again, Pat Surtain is out. Maybe he would have seen some shadow coverage from Surtain if Surtain was active, but the matchup gets better without Surtain. We just saw last week the kind of usage Bowers can have when he's healthy. If we just look at like his two healthy games, which is weeks 1 and week 9, 21 targets in his two healthy games, and not even two full healthy games. He got hurt in week 1, 71% route participation. Awesome usage for Bowers. And he's just really good. So, yeah, give me all the Bowers. I think he's probably my favorite captain play on the slate, or at least one of my favorite captain plays on the slate. But I also love Michael Mayer. So 2,800, 13% projected flex ownership. I got to 42% in the flex, 4% a captain. That looks great to me. No notes. I'll take all the Mayer that the Sims give me. If I were not getting to a ton, I would have forced them to give me a ton. I think he looks great. Again, we can just look at what happened in week 9 to give us an idea of his role with Bowers back. Bowers returned. Mayer still ran 70% of the routes, 7 targets last week. And that was with Jacoby Myers active. So you can assume, I mean, you can't really assume it, but like the role probably gets better without Jacoby Myers there. I think they're just going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets with Bowers and Michael Mayer out there. Again, 7 targets last week and still not getting a ton of ownership. So he is 2,800. And I would have thought he's going to be super chalky at 7,800 given his role on the team. And he's not being projected that way anywhere. Now, because he's being projected for barely double-digit ownership across the industry, I think he could end up like people are going to like him on all shows because it's like, all right, this seems like too low ownership. It seems maybe a bit too obvious for him to actually come in this low. But at the same time, I think a lot of people will make the assumption that he is the backup tight end, and with Bowers back, he's just going to take a back seat. So I think that we are going to actually see relatively low ownership on Michael Mayer, or at least we can hope for low ownership on Michael Mayer. But regardless, I think he's like a pretty good likely floor at 2,800 given given his seven targets last week. Is this another one? This is Abraham trolling now too. Who are these people? All right, I'm going to get rid of another one. This is wild. Okay. So Mayer probably my favorite value option, or almost certainly my favorite value option on the slate at 2,800. The coach speak pretty positive on using 2 tight end sets. Just recently from Pete Carroll. Let's see. On November 3rd, On whether Carroll hopes to continue using a lot of 12 personnel with a healthy Brock Bowers, he said, "Yeah, that's where we started this season too. We like Michael Mayer being on the field. At the same time, Brock's out there and all the flexibility that gives us. I don't think it could be more obvious how valuable Brock was to us yesterday and in week one." So I think we have no reason to doubt that they're going to continue to use a ton of Michael Mayer along with Brock Bowers. I was asked earlier, can you use them in the same lineup? Yeah, you can definitely use them in the same lineup. Again, Brock Bowers is a tight end, kind of in name only. He is basically just the wide receiver one on the team, whereas Michael Mayer is an actual tight end out there and actually getting pretty good usage. So I think both look great on their own, but then you can also certainly play Michael Mayer and Brock Bauer in the same lineup. No issue with it. Okay. And I'm not getting into any Ian Thomas or Carter Runyon. I don't really think you need. I think Carter Runyon might actually be inactive. I don't think it matters. I don't think you're going to play either of them. I think it's just all Bowers and Mayer for me. On the other side, Evan Ingram, I think, also benefits from the lack of Marvin Mims. He's 4,400, projected for 28% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. Using those ownership numbers, I got to 26% in the flex, 4% at captain. So a bit underweight at flex, a little overweight at captain. Totally cool with that for Evan Ingram. I think he is, again, pretty strong play here. Just looking at the usage. With Mims out last week, we saw 67% route participation for Evan Ingram. That was his highest mark of the season. I think they're going to continue to try to get the ball in his hands with Mims out this week. In terms of the matchup for the tight ends here, I'm just going to find my write-up on this rather than counting stuff out. Broncos defense has allowed the 16th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to tight ends. The Raiders defense has allowed the 8th fewest schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to tight end. So it's a slightly below average matchup for Evan Ingram, not enough to scare me off of him. And then you also have Adam Troutman, who I think is also a strong play here. Again, looking at his route participation, back up above 20% last week for Adam Troutman. I think he's a fine play, not like a smash play. Let's see. Okay, I'm down to 9% now. It was earlier the Sims were giving me a lot more. Now we're back closer to the field. 8% projected flex ownership. I'm now at 9% Adam Troutman. I think he's a fine play, but he's only been targeted like 10 times in 9 games, so not exactly a huge priority for me. Let's see. Yeah, 10 times in 9 games, 19% route participation. You're kind of hoping for a touchdown, classic backup tight end play. I think that's it from Denver. Defenses, kickers. Broncos defense projected for 29% flex, 4% captain ownership. I got to 20% flex, 1% captain. Seems fine. Will Lutz projected for 21% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. I got to 10% flex, none at captain. Cool with that. Raiders projected for 5% flex. I got to, and none at captain. I got to 22% at flex, 1% at captain. I think I want to be overweight. I might lose some of this as I try to get to a bit more of other value options, which I'm fine with. I do think I want to be overweight on 5%, but it doesn't need to be by any crazy amount. Daniel Carlson projected for 17% flex, none at captain. I got to 1%. Again, I wouldn't mind getting a bit more than that. Not like I want him to be a huge priority because there are other value options that I like quite a bit, but I think maybe more than 1% there. All right, so I'm going to reset everything here. Although we do have Bandy in here now. I'm going to rerun the Sims. Yep. All right. So I'm going to do 12,000 lineups. So here's how I'm setting up Run the Sims. So for my first run, for anybody who's new to it, I am not going to change any of the inputs here for my first run of the Sims because I want to see what the Sims are going to give me on their own. But what I am going to do is set up in the settings just for the type of contest that I play. So because I'm playing the largest field contest, I'm setting the size of the contest field to the max of 15,000. I'm doing 12,500 lineups just because typically you don't need more than this in Showdown. If it were a full slate, I might do the max number of lineups, but Usually you're going to get fewer lineups in this in your field anyway. And then number of sims, 10,000. Payout structure, because I'm playing large field stuff, I'm going to set it to top heavy, which best resembles the types of contests that I play. And then because I have the shady portfolio diversifier, I'm going to use that option. This is just going to give me the best portfolio of lineups rather than just giving me the top EV lineups, which might be really similar to each other, might kind of cannibalize each other. This is going to give me the best portfolio of lineups overall. And I'm playing 262 lineups tonight across contests. So I'm setting it to that number. And now we are running the sims. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that pepperoni. All right. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious where all these trolls came from. I don't have time to read them, so I can't really respond to them. I did not win the Millie hand building. I did win my first 100,000 hand building, though. The Millie was with an optimizer. All right, we're getting close. All right. Going to find you in the wait. Spellkowski says Adam is running these troll accounts. Probably. That does sound right. All right. Calculating payouts. Do I think my Vikings can still salvage their season? Yes, I think their schedule is not ideal. I think it's a good fantasy schedule, but a little bit of a tough real life schedule for the Vikings. So I'm not super confident in it. But JJ looked good in the last game. As long as the offensive line can stay healthy. How much salary do you feel okay leaving tonight in 150? I think you could leave some salary tonight. I think there are actually some pretty good values. So you could, like, if I left, I'm not going to set a salary cap that requires leaving more than like 1,000. But I think if I get to lineups that leave 4,000 on the table, I don't do anything to like limit the amount that I leave on the table. But my guess is that I'll get to some lineups here that actually leave 4,000 or 5,000 on the table. We'll see after I've run the sims if I do. But that would be my guess on this one. All right, the calculating payouts is taking a while. Diversifying payouts. I'm going to pull up FanDuel here just for anybody who cares about FanDuel. I think it's kind of the same. I don't think that these ownerships are correct. I don't think there's like Bo Nix is not going to get 48% MVP ownership. Obviously would not like him if he gets 48%. I would just spread out my ownership elsewhere. But I don't think that's real. I think Franklin looks pretty good at 11,700 as an MVP on FanDuel. Geno Smith would look good on FanDuel at 9%. Dobbins looks good. Bowers would be like a smash at 4% MVP ownership. Genty, if like those would be the two biggest priorities, would be Bowers and Genty if that ownership actually is correct. But I just don't think that it is. So it's kind of hard to analyze when I think the ownership is just way off there. I also think it's pretty off at flex, just super flat at the top. But looking at the price tags, like Franklin again at 7,800 looks good on FanDuel. Bowers, Genty both look good. Pat Bryant at 3,800 looks like pretty good value. Jack Besh at 3,400 looks like a good value on FanDuel. Neither projected for much ownership here. Michael Mayer at 4,600, so more expensive than those guys. I still like him if he's not going to get much ownership, which doesn't look like he is. Beatty, I think, is fine at 2,000, or Bidet, I should say. Thornton is 3,000. That's kind of interesting. I think he's playable on FanDuel. I think like those players who get just like one long splash play for their points are better on FanDuel typically than DraftKings, where it's not full PPR. Okay. Sims are done. I'm trying to see. Yeah, we have this one leaves 3,300 on the table. This one leaves 2,700. So yeah, we do have some lineups here that are leaving a fair amount showing up in the top of the Sims. At the very top, we've got, and again, these are not in direct order of EV because I'm using the Shady Portfolio Optimizer. Top lineup is Michael Mayer at captain with Brock Bowers and Geno Smith. So the top lineup has both of the tight ends for the Raiders along with their quarterback. Then you've got Bo Nix with Troy Franklin and J.K. Dobbins. This one leaves just 200 on the table. It's being projected for 2.5 dupes in a 15,000 lineup field. My guess is that it's going to be pretty heavily duped, this top lineup here. But so it's a pretty strong lineup in its likelihood of finishing near the top, but also I do suspect this one is going to be heavily duped. Second lineup, probably better from that perspective. Geno Smith at captain with Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, and Trey Tucker has RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins on their bring back. That's kind of a fun, interesting lineup with the triple stack, Geno with his top pass catchers, and then both running backs on the Broncos is kind of fun, I think. Third lineup, Cortland Sutton, Adam Troutman, Ashton Genty, Bo Nix, Evan Ingram, Troy Franklin. I'm going to take a look at my exposures. So still getting to a lot of Bo Nix, bit over the field, actually significantly over the field on Geno Smith also. Ton of Michael Mayer, fair amount of Brock Bowers, over the field on Evan Ingram, still at 9% Troutman. That all looks good to me. Running backs, I'm underweight now on J.K. Dobbins. So that's flipped throughout the course of the day. Underweight on Genty. Still getting a little bit underweight on RJ Harvey, but not by much. Not getting into any Bidet, so I want to up my Bidet exposure. Getting to 3% Dylan Lobby. Wide receivers getting to a lot of Cortland Sutton, less of Troy Franklin. Trey Tucker getting to 22% flex, 1.5% captain, about with the field there. I think if I bring up Pat Bryant's ownership a little bit, I might get to less than the 16%. I, again, would like more of Besh and Lockett. I'm okay with where I'm at on Thornton. I am now getting to 3% Bandy. I was kind of curious. So with the 1% projected ownership, I'm at 3% Bandy, not getting to Bachman or Sherfield. Defenses, again, I'm getting to a fair amount. Kickers, I think I'd like more Carlson than I'm basically getting none. So I'm going to make some adjustments here to the inputs. So let's see. I think in general, is it true? I was going to say, I think in general, I want more of the Raiders than I'm getting right now. Yeah, I think that's generally true. I think that's accurate. So I'm going to, easiest way to do it, so you can adjust things for anybody who's new to run the Sims. You can adjust things at the team level. You can adjust the number of points you expect a team to score or the number of plays you expect them to run. You can also adjust the rush rate. So the rush rate, if you change the rush rate, it obviously also changes the pass rate. So if I move the rush rate down, it moves the pass rate up, etc. And then you can change the rush touchdown rate. If you move that up, it'll move the pass touchdown rate down, etc., etc. So all of that is adjustable at the team level, also adjustable at the player level. You can change the rushing market share or the receiving market share. And if you click this smart adjust button and then you change the receiving market share for a player, it will proportionally change their touchdown market share as well. So let's see. I'm going to start with moving the Raiders up just slightly from 16.8 points to 17 points, pace up from 53.3 to 57. Again, I think I just like more of the Raiders across the board. I also think I'm going to move down Geno Smith's rushing market share slightly. I'm getting to a ton of Geno Smith. Wouldn't mind getting spreading that out a bit more than I have it right now. So I'm going to move his rushing market share down to 10%, and then give slightly more of that to Genty. Let's see. I think I wanted a bit more of Lockett and Besh. So I'm just going to get rid of Ian Thomas and give some of his receiving market share to Besh. Or no, to Lockett. And then I'm going to bring down the ownership on Besh to 19. It's 18% at Rotogrand. So I'll try that. Yeah, let me try. I'm going to try to get to a little bit more of Daniel Carlson. Click normalize there. And then on the Broncos side, it's getting to a fair amount of, I think I was happy with what I was getting to of Harvey and Dobbins. Franklin, I thought I'd get more of Franklin than Sutton, but I don't think I'm going to change anything there. Pat Bryant, I can move his ownership up a bit. I think I'm going to move him up to just like 6%. All right, I'm going to try that. And now I'm going to rerun the Sims. Okay. Yes, please do like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Very helpful. Right, it says, wait, these are just bots. I assume that there are some bots here. I also think there is I have a lifelong fan who has been just following me around from channel to channel for years. I think this is maybe just the second or third time he's actually come to this channel. All right, generating the field. It was, I think the one of my first trolls was back when I was doing shows with Jordan Cooper and got a guy who just like I was doing as Jordan Cooper's sidekick on the Theory of DFS show, and some guy just randomly like super hated me, and I think it was because I liked a tweet of somebody, like he had responded to something that somebody said and it was like ridiculous, and I liked a tweet in response to this person. Um, a ridiculous thing that he said, kind of making fun of him maybe. And I think that was enough that this person has now been just following me around for 3 or 4 years at this point. So, and just like was leaving like, didn't just like leave one message. It was like 5 messages about how much he hates me. It's a weird thing. It kind of catches you off guard when you're new to doing content. Like it's like, where the hell did this come from? Why does this guy hate me so much? At this point, I've done it a few years, so it's a little bit less jarring when it's just like, holy shit, why does this person? But then I think it usually comes down to like two people that I have really upset over the years. Appreciate that. All right, we're getting close. I think I'll have time to run one more set of the Sims before lock. I appreciate you guys. It is possible that he just really hates the flannel too. Maybe he just really hates the way I dress. I did not see the Vikings flannels on the NFL shop. I have a purple and yellow flannel, but it's not actually a Vikings flannel. All right. New Sims are in. Now the top lineup. Brock Bowers, Broncos defense, Geno Smith, J.K. Dobbins, Michael Mayer, Trey Tucker. That one leaves 2,500 on the table, so not as likely to be duped. Look at the EV on that one. 170, 169%. Second lineup, Brock Bowers, captain with Ashton Genty, Geno Smith, J.K. Dobbins, Raiders defense, and Michael Mayer. Third lineup, we've got Geno at captain with a full-on Genty, Bowers, Mayer, and Lockett stack, just Bo Nix. So naked Bo Nix in that one as the bring back. I still don't love those when I see them with the quarterback naked. As I said, Bo Nix I think is viable to play naked. I just don't want to get to a ton of that. So I'm keeping my eye on like how many of these do I really want in my portfolio? Bo Nix with no pass catcher or like just J.K. Dobbins. Like still feels a bit thin to me, even though I think it's viable. Just don't want it to be like a huge part of my portfolio. Looking at my player exposures at quarterback, still getting to a lot of Bo Nix, and man, I cut out some of the Geno Smith rushing. Didn't even matter. Still getting to 60% flex, 15% captain, well over the field there. Again, he looks good because he's not getting much ownership. I maybe need to increase his ownership a little bit because that seems light, but maybe not. Maybe this is just something I can just roll with a lot of Geno. But yeah, I'm well under the field on Bo Nix at captain. I'm like half the field there. Still a fair amount. At running back, I'm at 37% Genty in the flex, 7% at captain. So that come up a little bit. I'm happy to see that I'm getting more to there. J.K. Dobbins, I'm at 29 and 6.5% under the field there now. So that's different than earlier. Still enough that I'm okay with it. Harvey, I'm a bit under the field at 23% and 1% captain. Not getting to any. Oh, that's the thing that I forgot to do is to give any market share to Bidet. I'm going to go back and give try to get to some Bidet. Not getting to any Mostert. 1% Dylan Lobby. At wide receiver, still getting to about the same amount of Sutton and Franklin, about 28% in the flex, little over double digits in captain there. 31% Trey Tucker. Now that's interesting that's because I increased the Raiders points and plays. So I just increased the entire team there. That's interesting though. I'm getting to 31 and then 3% captain now of Tucker, 7% Pat Bryant. And that's because I increased the ownership number that we're using for Bryant there. Still just 5% Besh. Wouldn't mind getting more there. Up to 12% Lockett. That looks better now. 4% Thornton is fine. 3% Bandy's fine. Not getting to any Sherfield. So I think I'd still like more of both Besh and Pat Bryant at least. Maybe still more Lockett. At tight end. Just getting to all the Mayer and Bowers, which again, that's what I want. I think those are the strongest plays. So that's a stance that I want to hold. I'm at 46% Bowers plus 20% at captain, 53% Mayer plus 6% at captain, 27% Evan Ingram with 2% at captain looks fine. Also 9% Troutman seems okay. At kicker, okay, we evened out the kickers a bit. Or no, I think I added points to Will Lutz. And maybe it was Daniel Carlson I actually want to, but I'm at least getting to a little bit of both of them now. Defenses I'm at 18%, 13%, but that both seems kind of fine. All right. So I think I need to. I'm going to cut out some of this Geno, and spread it out elsewhere. So let's see. So going back again, I'm going to try to run the Sims one more time. So I'm going to bring down Geno's rushing market share again to 4%. Bring Ashton Genty up to 78%. Going to get rid of some of Genty's receiving market share to spread that out elsewhere. Let's see. Some of that to Lockett, Besh, Thornton. Okay. And then I'll give Mostert 12%. Good. Then on the Broncos side, wait, Carlson, I moved him up to 7. Did I move him up? Let's see. Then on the Broncos side, want to give a little bit more work to Bidet. So I'm just going to take that from Prentice, I think. Okay. Going to move Will Lutz up slightly also. Debating if I want more Pat Bryant than I'm getting currently. Anybody else that I'm okay getting to lesser of? Honestly, maybe RJ Harvey. Well, let's see. I can get rid of Sherfield. I'm not getting into any anyway. Then move that to Bidet. Okay. All right, running it one more time. Neil Nix and Harvey skinny stack sounds kind of cool. Yeah, that's totally fine. Harvey being used as a pass catcher primarily, so I like it. How long does it take it to move the lineups from here to the contest? Not long at all. I just need to download them from here and then upload them onto DraftKings. Oh wait, we got. Appreciate you, Brandon. Okay, I didn't. I guess it just came in. CMOS says Broncos DST or Will Lutz. Last spot in. Probably Broncos DST. I think. I mean, I think they're going to get more ownership though. That's the only downside to Broncos DST, but I still think that's probably where I'm more likely to go. Excuse me. Appreciate you joining, Vic. Good to have you as a member. I think again. I believe you already were. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I appreciate you joining the channel. Once you have joined the channel, you can, if you connect your YouTube to the Discord, you should be able to get into any private channels in there, including the Mathologies Maniacs channel, where he's given away some alpha in there, doing full game breakdowns for the main slate, for the primarily for the Dog Bowl on Underdog, but a lot of it is applicable to DFS also. It did say that I have 50% Mayor. Yeah, and I'm cool with that. I think Mayor is just a fantastic play at low ownership. Wait, why does it look like multiple people got memberships? Only one was gifted out, but it looks like Texas Politics and Best Ball. You say that somebody gifted you a membership, Saul, but you don't look like you have a membership. Yes, the Mathology channel, it's called Mathologies Maniacs. It is behind the paywall in the Discord. So if you are signed up, you should be able to see it. And as you are. Yeah, Mayor. I love Mayor on this slate, which again, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up higher than we're expecting, which would be a bummer, but Where he's being projected, he just looks awesome. Let's see how many instances did Gino have. Um, yeah. All right, diversifying payouts. Yeah, Sean, I would give you instructions on how to link your YouTube to the Discord, but I've only done it once and I don't remember how to do it. I just Googled it. Just go to your browser and Google. If you can't find it, I'll try to find instructions somewhere for you. I wouldn't say that I don't like Harvey. It's more just like he's being projected here for a lot of ownership. So it's like I think that he's fine. He's a bit expensive for somebody who gets like 2 carries per game. But I do think again he's been super efficient. And he was targeted 5 times last game. It's just for if and then that was kind of like the most he's been targeted is 5 times in a game. So unless you're expecting his role to expand, then he looks a bit too expensive. But again, I don't dislike him as a play. I think that he is a totally fine play at 5,600 because he could see his role expand. Top lineup here, and okay, second lineup has the highest EV we've had yet. Top lineup though, J.K. Dobbins with Brock Bowers, Broncos defense, Geno Smith, Michael Mayer, Trey Tucker leaves 3,100 on the table. Second lineup is a Brock Bowers captain with Broncos, Geno Smith, J.K. Dobbins, Michael Mayer, and Trey Tucker leaves 2,500 on the table. Third, fourth lineups, both Brock Bowers captain lineups with Geno Smith and J.K. Dobbins and Michael Mayer. Those two look really similar, but then it's a 1v1 swap of RJ Harvey and Will Lutz for those lineups. As far as exposures now, I am at 48% Knicks plus 14% captain. I'm at 59% Geno Smith plus 15% of captain, so still getting to a ton of Geno Smith. At tight end, a lot of Brock Bowers, 46% plus 26 at captain. A lot of Michael Mayer, 55% in the flex plus 6% at captain. Evan Ingram, 23% plus 2% at captain, just 5% Troutman now. That all looks great at tight end. Running back, I'm at 33% Ashton Genty plus just 4% at captain. Wouldn't mind getting more there. Dobbins, I'm at 30% flex plus 10% captain. That seems okay. Harvey, I am still getting a fair amount. Even at 32% projected ownership, I'm getting to 27%, 26% essentially at flex, 1% at captain. Still just 1% Beatty. Would have liked more there. Probably not going to have time. Not really getting into any lobby. Wide receivers, I'm getting to 29% Franklin plus 9 at captain, 29% Sutton plus 10 at captain, 36% Tucker plus 2 at captain, 8% Besh, 5% Bryant, 13% Lockett, 5% Thornton, 1.5% Bandy. Defenses, 18% Broncos, 16% Raiders, a little bit at captain also. Kickers, 11% Lutz, just 3% Carlson. All right, I'm going to download these and put them in. Hang on one sec. Probably not going to have time to run another full sim at least. Although I could just rerun the contest with the lineups that I have now. So now at this point, I got the lineups in. At this point, if you feel close enough, this is where you can just start filtering. So if I go back to run the sims under this graded lineups, so usually I'll keep running the sims until I get to enough lineups with the players that I want, and then filter out to get to exposures close to where I like. But let's see. Sorry, if I go to player exposures. So if I want more Bidet, like right now, I'm not sure if filtering is going to get me to more of Tyler Bidet. Like it's just difficult to get more. But to get to less of some players, you can use filter. So if I'm like, that's way too much Geno Smith. If I decide that I don't want 75% Geno Smith, which I can go filter out some of that Geno Smith exposure, and that'll push me to some of the other higher end options, which I think I might do. Let's see. I think that's the big one. I think that's really it. Honestly, I think I'm going to generally accept these lineups that I have at this point, but I am going to use the advanced filters. That's the only one I'm going to do because I don't have a ton of time. So I'm going to say maximum contain of Geno Smith at captain of 10%, maximum contain of Geno Smith in the flex of 50%. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to do. And now, so I need to really only need to send like 2,000 lineups through the. So now I'm just going to run this through the portfolio optimizer. Only going to do 2,000 because just want to do it within the top, the lineups that are top in terms of EV anyway. So you don't really need to do it with all your lineups. Just sending it back through with the top 2,000 lineups in terms of EV. All right. Let's see. Sean likes Lockett. Gallows thinks Mayer will be over 20% owned. I wouldn't be surprised. Preference between Sutton and Franklin on FanDuel. Yeah, point per dollar would be Franklin for sure. Like they project about the same. So yeah, I think I prefer in both places. I prefer Franklin. Thank you for the reminder. I actually just remembered Rims and Tims. I think I forget why I saw I saw that I had a super chat on I think my last stream from Rims and Tims, which I appreciated. And now I'm forgetting what he asked a question. It was after he had won something also. So first of all, congrats to Rims and Tims. But also I think he asked a question and now I'm forgetting what it was. But I think I missed it on the stream, or maybe I just completely forgot. But appreciate it. And if you have a question, you can come back with it if I did not already answer it. All right, we got 2 minutes left. We'll see if I get this one in. Come on, we're getting close. I can feel it. Reminder, please like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And sign up for Run the Sims. If you have not checked it out, you can get 50% off your first payment using promo code Neil. Wait, are they in? I think they are. I think I've got them now. Yes. Okay, we're good. We're good. Just got to download these. I think I'm going to get these in time. All right. Boom. All right. So we got the filtered lineups in just in time. See what so now the columns that I look at are these filtered exposure columns as opposed to the shady exposure columns. As you can see now, I'm getting to 50% Geno Smith in the flex with 9% at captain. That did push up my Bo Nix, I think, slightly in those. Now I'm up to 50% Nix plus 18% at captain, so I kind of flipped my exposures there. Now I'm up to 22% Bowers in the captain, so that pushed that up also, not surprisingly. I thought it might push up the running backs a bit more than it did. But yeah, it didn't actually get to much more of Genty or Dobbins. Did get to a little bit more of Franklin and Sutton, it looks like, which I'm happy about. Anyway, that's going to do it, I think, for the show. Don't think I have anything else to do here. Somebody had a question actually for post locks. Let's see. Brandon did a countdown. Appreciate you. About the Q tags. Oh, yeah, somebody was asking about Q tags potentially affecting thought post-lock. Do you think the Q tags on Cook and Dowdle for Sunday are just veteran maintenance? I think so. Well, Cook was back practicing today, so I don't think that's a concern at all. Dowdle was limited in practice today, so I'm starting to be slightly nervous, but I think it's most likely they've talked about wanting to give him a heavy workload this week, so I'm not that worried about it. Just slight worry there. Sorry, Brandon, missed this. Probably would have said Engram just because, like most people, I am biased against kickers, but I think strong plays. Lockett probably is washed, but maybe he has one more in him. All right. Good. Good luck, everybody. By the way, you can always join the Flaniverse Discord. It's free to join. Link is in the description of this video. 17% mayor. Come on, what are we doing here? That's way too little. That's way too low, mayor. Or is that the ownership? Did he come in at 17%? Give me all the mayor if he comes in at 17%. I would like so much. All right, I'm gonna let you guys get to the game. Appreciate all of you again. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Good luck tonight. Hopefully, I'll see you in the Flaniverse Discord, and I'll see you back this weekend. That didn't work.